Media. The way
Just
you
say love and hip hop, bro.
No, it ain't just love in hip hop.
It's love and hip hop.
It's the lack of love in hip hop. You know what I'm talking about? That's the issue.
Yeah.
You know, because that shit started from colors. That shit started from, you understand me, boys in the hood.
Mm.
You know, like there wasn't no representation of like black masculine Muslim men in there. That's when they started making it corny to be conscious or smart. So now you don't want to be that, right? Like, I'm not about to be smart, let nobody know that, you know, I like math. Like, nah, like Cash is making fun of that.
Right.
But, you know, they ain't making fun of a blood who killed somebody.
Right.
If I kill somebody, I'm cool.
Yeah.
You understand me? But if I'm smart, I'm corny.
If I come home from jail, everybody's celebrating.
Exactly.
If I come home from college,
Nobody gives a
niggas
shit.
is like,
All of it starts with the media
I'm gonna keep
programming
this money
right
to
now.
myself.
But at the same time, it starts from that media programming is normalizing us not having family households.
right.
Because y'all had a brother on here that was talking about fathers not being in the house, right? You know,
Dress.
father.
Shout out to Dress from Black Sheep.
A father is so important because a father is a mountain, right? So when you think about your father, that's the mountain you have to conquer in life, right? It gives you strength to conquer that mountain. Some people may never do it. Some people go to the middle of the mountain. Some people get to the top, they plant a flag, they've surpassed their father. A father's job is not to make their son like them, it's to make it better.
Right.
But when you have an absent father, that mountain becomes smaller, right? So sometimes your father can do something, you don't look at him the same. That mountain becomes a hill, there's distance, right? Your father can be dead to you. That mountain becomes a rock. Then it get broken down into dust. It don't feel nothing from it. Now you can't gain nothing from it. Now you're looking for that in the world because that's that strength you need. You understand me? And so without those mountains being in people's lives, they don't know how to gain and get that. So they look for it everywhere else.
Right.
You understand me? And everywhere else, most of the time it's somewhere toxic. You understand me? And so this is why, you know, you have an imbalanced society because it's a lack of masculine men in society. So this is the world that we get to live in now. What would the world be like if there wasn't masculine men in the world? This is where we see the world going.
So when did they start demonizing masculinity? In your opinion?
I think this started,
Right off the
there's
ship.
a lot of different movements, right? But if you go to music, right? Because you had the 60s was a more militant, powerful movement, right? They had heroin in the 60s, but people had black identity and consciousness. So they brought in, the 70s was a drug movement, right? Give them psychedelics, keep them high, they not gonna focus, right? Then you had the 80s, the revolution came back around, right? You got the Black Panthers, right? Killed them off, crack cocaine coming out from Oakland throughout all that movement, killed them off. After that, we go into the 90s, hyper masculinity, right? Because before they started to destroy divine masculinity or just regular masculinity, they made it hyper. So now instead of us fighting the system, we fight each other. They go from fuck the police to fuck that nigga.
Right.
Right? And so now, instead of we gods, no, we niggas. Instead of we brothers, no, we is Pac and Biggie.
Right.
You understand me? And so after Pac
we
and Biggie,
gang.
and the hyper masculinity of the 90s, the 2000s come around, and that's when the real feminine agenda really got pushed in. Because guess what? The greatest tool is the internet, right? Because now they can push that into, right, all of the households, right? And then it started to become hyperalized when everybody got a phone. Now you can't even control the media, right? You got social media. They realized, I learned a long time ago, anything that the devil can use as a tool for power, he will. TV came about, he said, oh, they gonna sit there for hours on the day and just listen. They put in subliminal messaging.
Right.
Hollywood, we're not just about to have a society of millions and millions of people watching TV, right? Without the government coming, stepping in and say, let's put our messages on there and how we want society to go forward.
Right.
Same thing with social media. So that to me, it's not just one period because they've been trying to effeminate, right, the culture. They've been doing it for a long time to try to subdue that masculine entity because masculine men want power. That molecule of testosterone that makes us want control and power, right? So what do you have to do? They said over the last 40 years, there's been a 1% decline of testosterone in men every year. So it comes through the food, comes through the water, comes through the program. Young males don't want to be men. They don't. They say being a protector, provider, producer, leader, they say, oh, that shit sounds too hard. They don't want to be a man. Why? Because the association, while everybody was talking about toxic masculinity, they were saying it's toxic to be a man. That was the message to the young males.
Yeah.
That was the message to young girls. Like, a man is toxic. Not just, you know, a person that's toxic with flawed character traits. Being a man is toxic. When masculinity is the typical traits of a man, right? And then the cold part about it is women picked up all of the toxic traits. So, and justified by saying that y'all did it. Well, that's not, two wrongs never made a right. You understand me? And so we was always combating, even, you know, there's always been a conscious movement against, you know, the degradation in hip hop. So it only makes sense if we start seeing women do it, there's a movement against y'all as well. Somebody was telling me like, well, when men was doing, nobody was saying nothing. Like, yes, they were. The president was against them. There was whole political movements against them.
Right.
So the moment you start seeing women do it, it only makes sense that there's a movement against it. And so in today, it's becoming normalized in the style of, well, this is freedom. Ain't no freedom. You just out of control. You don't have no discipline.
Reckless.
Yeah, that ain't
Reckless.
freedom.
Yeah.
So speaking of discipline,